Hi, I'm Ish Nazar, and here we are doing our final and fifth segment of this interview with Mr. Robert Liebendorfer. And we finished the last segment talking about Becker High and some of the problems that they've had. And so we're going to go right now on to Mr. Liebendorfer teaching methods. Tell us, Mr. Liebendorfer, what were some of your, I don't want to call it annex, but let's say some of your methods to get some of your students' attention?
Well, the one that most students remember would be when I would get on top of the desk with an umbrella, teaching Macbeth, because the umbrella was a sword. And then, of course, I would jump down and continue to do the reenactment. And then at other times, I would be trying to teach something. For example, I was trying to teach the difference between first person, second person, and I would make up stories. One story I made up was about a werewolf. I was being chased by a werewolf. Purely imaginative, had no basis in fact. But years after, I still have students who said, "My brother told me about you being chased by a werewolf." And I had to say, no, that's not true. I've never chased by a werewolf. I never had killed a werewolf. I've never seen a werewolf except in the movies. And they thought I was joking.
Oh my goodness. Now also, here on my notes, I have where you use the Rome system. That's R-O-A-M system. The R for tell us about it.
Yeah, the Rome method, I developed that. Repeating, observing, associating, and memorizing. And I tried to make sure the students learned that method because it can be applied across the curriculum, not just in English classes, because you can repeat in any class, observe in any class, associate and memorize in any class. But there were quite a few opponents because I emphasized memorizing. And memorizing is fundamental. If you don't memorize your ABCs, you're going to have trouble with the rest of your life. Or take your Social Security. It's kind of nice to know your Social Security, because if you don't, somebody's wanting to know it. Why keep carrying around your pocket and looking for it and say, well, here it is, let me see. Memorize it. So memorization is fundamental, but many people scoffed at that and thought I was way off base on that. The other three they accepted as, that is, repeating, observing, and associating rather easily, and saw great value in them. But I saw great value in all four, not just the three.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I can recall my mother. She had a method too. When I was learning my multiplication tables, she used the method of a ruler. You know, no, it's not. It's you know, I got whacked that many times, and also you used another method, dot. Tell us about dot.
A dot method was used for course observation, oral usage, and listening. I would try to make sure I repeated everything twice, but if you were going to sleep in the classroom, I might ask you something, and if you were not listening, then I made sure I gave you the sign that you received the dot, and you knew that you had just lost 3 points for listening.
Oh, okay.
In the same way with observation, I would use films, and I would make sure students learned through the films. They had to observe the films. They couldn't go to sleep, because if they went to sleep, they couldn't observe the film, couldn't pass the test on the film. So I had to keep after them that way. And then oral usage, I like to make sure they would speak correctly. And they picked it from.
So you only made a signal to them. You didn't holler them dot.
No, I give, once in a while it became very dramatic. I'd take a pen or a pencil and I'd go into the grade book, and so that way they would remember that they did receive a dot.
Oh. And the dot was worth how many points?
Minus 3 points. And of course, if I made an error, they would get plus 3 points, because I'm not perfect yet.
Okay, okay, yeah. Did you ever have to give out many 3 points?
Not very many, but I had to give some. Yes.
That's that. At least you're honest about that. That's very good. Okay. If it's possible, can you define your experience at Becker High School?
Well, it was intellectually and emotionally stimulating because I taught not only the Sharpies, but I taught many slow students. And you can learn a great deal from slow students by what they're asking, because then you see what you're assuming, and you say to yourself, uh-oh, if I'm assuming that and they're not understanding because I'm assuming, I'd better clarify. So then you'd spend time clarifying it, and they could become very penetrating questions. They didn't know it at the time because they were slow students, but they were penetrating to me because they were setting me right, saying, uh-oh, you better back off and reteach something because it wasn't clear.
That's very good. You know, being older now, I can relate to that. I wasn't one of them real fast students either. Still not. But anyway, okay. So now let's talk about Marilyn, your wife, your lovely wife. How did you meet? Tell us how you met Marilyn.
On Saturdays and Sundays, Sam Williams and I would often go downtown. But one Sunday, he couldn't go, so I went. And as I was walking, since he had the car, couldn't go with him, I was walking. Started to rain. I looked for some place to go to get out of the rain. Saw a church, ran up to the church porch, stood there hoping the rain would stop so I could continue on my way downtown. It didn't stop. Heard some singing in the church. Went inside the church and there I see this woman playing the piano. And I'm saying, hey, that's pretty good. And I later learned she's Marilyn. And a few years later, we get engaged, married, have one daughter named Sonia.
And that's something. So at that time, you don't drop that rule 3 times. You dated the girl more than 3 times if you had to.
Well, yeah, but when I met her, the rule was no longer.
Oh, no longer in effect. Okay, just want to get that clear. Want to get that clear. You know, Marilyn told me a story about you, and I want you to talk a little bit. I thought I like to die laughing about it. Her father was a carpenter. He was a finishing carpenter. And those were the days when those carpenters were, or electricians, they were talented. They were good at that time. Responsible people. So, as I understand, Marilyn told her Dad, I met this new guy. His name is Robert Liebendorfer. And she really built you up. I mean, she built you up. And then he said something to the fact that, why do you like him? He don't even have a car. Explain that.
Well, that's true. Because since bus transportation was so good in Columbus, I saw no reason to buy a car. And when I would go to visit her, I went by the bus. If we were going someplace, we went by the bus. When we played badminton, we'd go someplace and play badminton by the bus. When we went bowling, we'd go by bus. We always had transportation, never had to worry about it. So I always appreciated the transportation system in Columbus.
See, I'm glad you explained that, because some people might have thought you was a cheapskate. But that explains, that makes sense right there of what you're saying. Moving right along, Mr. Liebendorfer stayed in Becker all the way till it closed in 1991. And then, not too long ago, when they decided to demolish Becker, Mr. Liebendorfer went in front of the school board and with a proposal. And since we're running short on time, I'm going to read this kind of carefully or speeding.
Pardon me, this was when they were going to close Baker and then have it join with Carver.
Okay, this is when they were going to close Becker and join up with Carver High School.
Not demolish it yet.
Okay, so this is back in
1991.
1991. And also, before I read this, in 1991, a member of the school board came by Becker High School the week before, and tell us about that.
The day before, it was the superintendent himself, and we in the school did not know Baker was going to be closed. We had to learn through the media the next day that it was going to be closed. So there was a great deal of consternation among some faculty members because The day before, he could have taken us aside, called a faculty meeting and said, look, it's going to be closed, and would have taken no one by surprise. But he didn't do it. So we were greatly disappointed in the way he handled the closing at Baker.
Oh, that just burns me up. It didn't change in the 1940s. It didn't change in the 1950s. It didn't change in the 60s. It never changed how they felt about Baker High School. I don't want to get on that because we can talk about it all day long. I was going to read to you this proposal, but because of time, we can't do it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this home. I'm going to scan and copy it, and it'll be on my computer. And it will be for you folks at home with computer that want to see the proposal that Mr. Liebendorfer proposed to the school board. It's really interesting. When did I find this out? I just found out about this. And so I did not prepare for it. Mr. Liebendorfer, it's been a great pleasure. I really have enjoyed it. You know, I've enjoyed it so much. You know, we appreciate you. We appreciate you very much. And we want to thank you for sharing your thoughts, your good times with us. And we wish you nothing but the best of health in the future to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate those kind words.
And that concludes this segment. So listen, thank you all for watching. And until the next time, from Mr. Bob Liebendorfer and I, we'll see you later. Bye.